So today was the day that Sony decided to do another State of Play, which is their kind of 10 to 12 minute long infomercial YouTube trailer compilations where they showcased upcoming games that you can play on their PlayStation 4. And yeah, this one just wasn't really good, just like the first. So let's get into it, shall we? What's going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, Man with the Million, back again with another video. Hope everybody's having a great day. And you know what? If you enjoyed this video, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for future content. I greatly appreciate it. So, State of Play. A lot of people, they always seem to get their hype expectations out of whack. Every time Sony announces one of these things, and this is the second one, people reach for the stars. Death Stranding's gonna be there, a new trailer for Ghost of Tsushima, perhaps The Last of Us 2 release date, and so on and so forth. So when you actually get a, collection of trailers that feature 5 games, none of them really what you would call big titles. Sure, you have an expansion for Monster Hunter World coming in September, and the re-reveal of Final Fantasy VII, but none of these games are what people, or maybe what PlayStation fans, especially what I want to see. I want to know, when is Last of Us coming out? When is Ghost coming out? What is Death Stranding? But I wasn't hyped for this one, because I kind of let my expectations get the best of me during their first episode, and it was very disappointing since they focused on VR. So I was like, I'm not expecting anything out of this one. And I wasn't disappointed at all, because really, you didn't get much. I know a lot of people will be like, well, this was actually pretty good, because Final Fantasy VII was shown off, and we're going to find more about it at E3 this June, presumably at Square's show, which is great. Final Fantasy VII's in my top 5 games of all time. But watching that trailer just got me thinking, man, did they just take Final Fantasy VII and just put it in Final Fantasy XV's gameplay engine? So it's basically going to be Final Fantasy XV, but just Final Fantasy VII's story? I mean, I guess I'm okay with that, but I need to see more, and I need to know when it's coming out. And also, if you recall back in 2015, at the end of the trailer, it said, play it first on PlayStation. They didn't mention anything about exclusivity or play it first on PlayStation again, so I have to wonder if, because of how expensive the project may be, if it's no longer like a timed exclusive for PlayStation. Maybe it's coming to Xbox and PC at the same time, so that'd be interesting. The other kind of new game they showed was a Predator Hunting Grounds, an asymmetrical online multiplayer shooter of some kind where you have 4 people roaming around and a predator hunting them, kind of little bit vibes of Evolve, and it's made by Ilphonic. Now, immediately when I watched the trailer, I was like, wow, is this SOCOM? Is Sony really going to announce a new SOCOM? And I was watching Twitter as this all happened, and everyone's like, SOCOM? Is this SOCOM? And I was like, man, SOCOM comes back, that's a big moment for a lot of people, but would they relegate that to State of Play? And no, it wasn't. It was Predator Hunting Grounds from the developers of Friday the 13th, which immediately makes me not even care about the game, because I honestly thought Friday the 13th was a horrible, horrible game. So I have zero interest in whatever Predator is. Of course, they also showed off Medieval. They promised a deep dive look at it, but I mean, it was like 90 seconds long, really not so much of a deep dive. The release date for October 25th, right around Halloween, makes sense. But, of course, the big thing with State of Play is that, I don't know, it really doesn't have a personality. Like, at least with the Nintendo Directs, it has, like, Nintendo charm that people really seem to like. And I know a lot of people talk about Xbox and Inside Xbox and how long it is, but at least they have Xbox personalities up there talking, like Major Nelson and Jeff Rubenstein and people like that. I get none of that with this State of Play. It's just a collection of trailers that Sony strings together with a faceless woman's voice talking over it. It lacks any sort of punch or any sort of connection to the PlayStation universe. Maybe it'd be better if these games were introed by Shuhei Yoshida or perhaps Sean Layden or somebody else that people have a connection to at PlayStation, because otherwise I don't really know what else to say about it. It's kind of boring. It lacks any sort of pizzazz, I guess is the right word. It's cool to see Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it didn't, like, blow my mind. It still just was eh. I mean, at least, and this is where I'll compare it to Inside Xbox, at least they're not wasting a lot of my time. At least this stuff is only 10 to 12 minutes long. Unlike Inside Xbox, which is usually an hour to an hour and a half, which waste a lot of time. They don't have a lot of content for Inside Xbox, but they stretch it out. Whereas State of Play, it's like, we don't really have much to show, so we're just going to keep it really short so people don't really have much to complain about. And if you think about the reasons why Sony hasn't, not going to E3 and because they don't have a lot to show, well, I guess it kind of fits into with this whole State of Play stuff. They really don't have a lot to show. And I think that's getting proven more and more as we go along and we get into these little 10-minute State of Plays that, yeah, they really didn't have much to show out of some updates from their first-party games that presumably are 2020 at this point. Is there still hope for Last of Us Part 2 to be coming out in October? I mean, I hope so. Maybe they release another State of Play or a trailer for Last of Us right around June. Wouldn't that be a baller move if Sony came out and released like the trailer the day before or the day of Microsoft's press conference and just said, Last of Us Part 2 coming October 9th or something like that, or October 15th, taking kind of some of the wins out of the sales of Microsoft? It'd be a pretty interesting move if that actually happened, but I'm starting to wonder, like, well, no wonder Sony didn't show up to E3 because they really don't have anything to show. But otherwise, at least I only wasted 10 minutes of my time. It was nice to see Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm excited to see more of that later on. But honestly, Sony needs to kind of go back to the drawing board and make this more, I don't know, it lacks a certain something. It lacks a punch. It needs to be, I don't know. I don't know what exactly you need. I said maybe you can use Shuei Yoshida or Sean Layden to intro stuff, but it needs like a PlayStation vibe. It doesn't have the charm of the Nintendo Directs, and it lacks the production of Inside Xbox, but those are too long. So it's missing something. They just need to kind of go and figure out what that something is. But anyways, guys, that's the video. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought about State of Play in the comments below. Share this out on Twitter and social media. Maybe tell a friend about the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want to subscribe, I'd really like that. And if you want to always be notified when I drop new content, well, the notification bell is right there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.